Hello everyone out there. Hopefully you're doing very well on this Tuesday evening. Probably the most impromptu stream I've ever done, but look, it's been busy. If any of you didn't see already, I was on the official SuperCoach NRL team list reaction podcast, which was awesome. So thanks to the guys for inviting me and having me over for that. So that was cool. So if you want to watch that, you've got some of my thoughts already on the week ahead. What else have we got going on? Plenty of questions to cover. Fullbacks, 5'8", halfbacks, all that good stuff. Nathan Cleary, etc. I literally need to be out of here by 6:30 as well. I've got plans with the miso and the future father-in-law. Shout out to future father-in-law who's having his 60th birthday today. But it means from coming home just now, I was like, well, I kind of want to do something. So literally 20 minutes. I've got some slides. They're not fully prepped, but it's been that chaotic of a day. But I thought we'll try to do more of your questions. How about that? Aman, I hope you saw my V for Feeder post the stream today. I did. I really wanted to actually call it out when I saw it, but I thought, let me be professional. I told Sangster afterwards, don't worry, you could say whatever you want, to be honest. We're not that professional here. But yes, I did see the Viliami for Feeder of the SuperCoach World comment, which I must admit, I did have a bit of a giggle. But yes, do tune into that. Yeah, great show on the official pod. You're a natural. Thank you. Appreciate that. Very, very cool to do that. How good was my debut? Benny G, your comment, by the way, was hilarious. Just letting you know, my mum has seen that comment, Benny. And she said, is this a real comment? Is that actually someone comparing you? Is this person making this comment about this being the best Australian debut, blah, blah, blah? Yes. I was like, yep, that's a real person. That's a real person commenting, and he's one of the nicest people ever. So anyway, Benny, my mum has read your comments. How about that? Anyway, keep fire on your questions, guys. It's literally 6:30, which is 19-20 minutes. I kind of really have to wrap this up. So I'm happy to keep this as question oriented as possible. Obviously we've got Origin tomorrow night, so that's something that we need to see what happens. But in terms of a quickfire TLT wrap up now that's in my head, Cleary's been named, Grant has been named, Fletcher Sharp is nowhere near is not in the 17 for the Knights. All the Broncos and Cowboys Origin players are named in reserves, except for Penrith. Dylan Edwards and Isaiah Yeo are getting complete rest, so that is obviously quite impactful. What else is there? Josh Carr and Sam Hughes both starting for the Dogs. What else have we got? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Probably nothing. I guess Manly, pretty straightforward Manly team. Anyway. And Coruscant, not been named, but it looks as though Coruscant is going to be back next week, or at worst case, the week after. Roosters, good point here from Paycheck about Angus Crichton. Yes, the Roosters have named their Origin players. They actually have named quite a strong team. Terrell May has been named to start. Angus has been named to play. We just have to see what happens post Origin. I figure because it's a game against Melbourne, they maybe thought we need to put out a pretty strong team. Nico Hines and Fletcher Sharp to Jaden Campbell and Tolau. Is that Tommy Tolau? Not sure if I love Tommy Tolau, but I understand the Nico sell. And I gave some of my thoughts on that stream earlier. But yeah, Jaden Campbell, I actually don't mind him as a trade and still even this week with that negative break even, because he'll at least make you some money the next 2 weeks against Manly and the Dolphins. I pulled these stats earlier today. So Manly have been the 6th worst at defending opposition halfbacks and 5'8" on average, and then Dolphins 4th. So the next 2 weeks look pretty good. Even Broncos are 9th, so it's not like they're amazing. And so the next 2-3 weeks actually look okay for Campbell. If you want to wait and see how Cleary goes, you can give him a week. At least Campbell, to Cleary could net you 250k. If Cleary goes down 100k and Campbell goes up another 100k. Could also end up being a season keeper. Doesn't have a bye for the rest of the season. So I actually don't mind Campbell. Personally, I'm waiting a week on Cleary to answer Alex Palmer's question. I just think, I assume he's going to go well because he's had plenty of time off. Supposedly, they've kind of held him back so that he didn't have to come back early. But it's hamstring injury. He's had a pretty interrupted season. I just think I want to wait a week on Cleary. He's got a really high break even. It's 181 is what I have here, although it could be updated now to 189. It's a good matchup against the Dolphins. I understand it at home. But also wouldn't be surprising if he has a really good game, but then maybe gets an early shower and maybe ends up on 80, 90 points, which is still good, but he still will lose a lot of money. So yeah, I'm personally waiting a week. Although if you're a Nico Hines owner and you just want to, you want him, then you could look at it as an opportunity to get 1 week ahead of the pack. So on that side of things, I don't hate it. I'm not in that position. If I had Hines myself, to be honest, I would probably just make that move. Especially if I had pretty weak depth this week and I needed players in the field, then I would do it. Otherwise, I think if you can, ideally, I would just be waiting a week. Better debut than Massey taking 16 for 137 on debut in the Ashes. Yeah, Benny, that was a comment. It was awesome. Hold Appy or trade. And yeah, another question on Appy Coruscant. Apologies. Hooker slide has not been updated at all. So forget about the prices and things that you're seeing here. They haven't been updated. They haven't been updated. But the draw, we can still at least look at the draw. So Coruscant should be out this week. But if he's back next week, it's New Zealand Cowboys, Warriors, Cowboys, Knights, Souths, Manly, by Parramatta. Like, it's a pretty good run home. I just feel like Hooker's a pretty weak position. I ideally would just like to be, holding fast. I think with Appy, we know outside of his injury, he was averaging around mid-60s. If you don't have a backup hooker this week and you need to go to one, there's not one I haven't actually got on the screen here, but I know one that has piqued some interest is Tom Starling. So I'll have to this is one thing we did brush over on the Teamless podcast. So I'll have to double check NRL.com. But if he's been named to start, Fogarty's back in the team, so that probably does help things for the Raiders. Yeah, Starling has been named to start. He's got a negative 31 break even, 299k. You could go down to him, free up a lot of money. Doesn't have a buy for the rest of the season. Coming off scores of 52 and 80, playing pretty good minutes. Don't mind Starling as a bit of a cheapy option. So in your case, Alex Palmer, you've got Appy and Simpkin. I'd be happy to keep it for a week. Simpkin has been named again for Manly. I'm just going to double check that, so I'm not talking out of my you-know-what. Yeah, he's still been named to start. There is Tong on the bench, but last week Simpkin went off with a little bit of an issue. But look, he might generally be good for 40 to 45 points. I think I'd rather save that trade and just keep Appy, to be honest, because looking at the reserves, there's still no Lachlan Croker. So I feel like Simpkin's still fine for at least this week, if not a couple of weeks. I was trying to watch for a little smile when I commented that. In all seriousness, Turbo or Cleary this week. Oh god, that's tough. If you're going one of the two this week, of Cleary or Turbo, haven't really put too much thought into it. Probably Turbo, I think, just because his break-in's a bit more manageable at 82. Titans at home. I know the Titans have improved, and we'll quickly touch on that. Actually, I'll get onto the here we go, run home fullback draw. So Titans have actually been, over the season, the Titans have been the 5th worst at defending opposition fullbacks. I don't know what that is over the more recent weeks, but it's a home game. I'd be happy to get Turbo in this week, and I think give Cleary a week and let his price hopefully go down. That's probably how I'd play it, because the thing is, if you get Cleary this week and you wait on Turbo, you might not want Turbo next week, because next week he's going to come into the Roosters and then a bye. So I feel like if you're keen on Turbo, this is probably the better week to trade him in, and then maybe get Cleary in next week after you can see him for a week. What do we got here? 2 trades left to mine from Benny. Dylan Brown to Cleary next week. Connor, Angus or Manu. Who do I bring in with my last trade? That's a tough one. So probably wouldn't hold out on Manu, just because at the same time that Manu's probably back, Lomax has got a really good run home. So I feel like you've got an alternative. Although, to be fair, you've got 2 trades left. So if you only need one of them, who would I think would score the most points? It's probably Angus, I reckon. Just the way that he's been going. I think biggest ceiling probably out of him and what we've seen from Manu so far this year. Yeah, probably Angus, I reckon, to be honest. It would probably be Angus, Connor, Manu. Connor's probably got the best value in his position because there's no one else really good at hooker. But Angus, to me, feels like just pure points scoring. I think he would be the one I would opt to go for. Walsh, Ponga, or Turbo. Ideally, I don't want to waste another trade at fullback. This is the biggest question mark, isn't it? Like, which fullback do we look to prioritize? So, got on screen here. I put this up on Twitter and Instagram as well. So, in terms of the ranking for the rest of the season, and one thing I didn't do with the fullbacks, which I did do with halfbacks and 5/8, which I might just redo and repost on Twitter maybe tomorrow or Thursday. I looked at both including and excluding buys for the halves and 5/8. I haven't done it for the fullbacks, which probably I should have done, because it helps you get a better idea of, as long as you can manage buys, then you're probably looking okay draw wise. So Reece Walsh, I've got him ranked as 6th best draw for fullbacks. Ponga I've got as 4th, and Manly I've got as 7th. So purely draw wise, it's Ponga, just because not necessarily the next three. The next three are pretty hard. It's just round 23 onwards. Three of the next, he's got lots of games at home, lots of day games as well. Walsh having Reynolds back soon will mean he loses the goal kicking, but probably a better team in general. Look, I'm probably a little bit biased, but personally, I still feel like Ponga is the one who I'd be the most afraid of not having, especially if he goes back to goal kicking. He just looked really good last week. I know Turbo was great last week, but one thing about that Manly game was that the Knights were really poor, really weak. And even the Titans this week at home, I don't think is that bad. I don't think is that amazing as what we maybe thought for the entire season. They've been pretty good, improved defensively over the last few weeks. Yeah, I'd have to lean. To me, I'm leaning Ponga as the one. I think ideally, if you've got trades, I would go Turbo into like a KP. What you could do is like get Turbo's next two, and then maybe in the bye week you can reassess. In round 22, you could switch to Ponga. I know he's got Penrith that week, but after that, Ponga I think's got a really good run. Or you could do Reece Walsh, get Knights, Bulldogs, Titans. So 2 out of 3 good matchups, although they are away. And then from round 23 onwards, before Walsh goes into his bye in round 24, you could switch to Ponga. So I think next 3, Walsh should be on top for me. Then probably Turbo, then Ponga in terms of the next 3. Round 23 onwards for me is Ponga. So I think you just have to, if you just only have to get one of them, I still feel like Ponga's the one I think I'm leaning towards getting. For the rest of the season, I'd probably go Ponga number 1, Turbo 2, Walsh 3. That's my opinion. Do I get Cleary already owning Turbo? I could go Nico to Cleary and Aitken to Tungo. I think getting Cleary this week is fine. I know he's got that really high break even, so the conservative side of me says you don't need to rush to get him in. But at the same time, if you're sitting with Nico, who's a sell anyway, you could just do that trade this week and get one trade. You can get one round ahead of the pack. And it's a home game against the Dolphins. Even if he plays 65, 70 minutes and gets an early shower, he could do a lot of damage in that time. So honestly, I don't hate just going Cleary to Nathan Cleary in for Hines straight away. And Tungo, I know he's been on a very, very bad stretch. 2 big scores earlier this season were with Cleary in the side, although it was against teams who had to reshuffle their backline. But it's not necessarily even just this year. Generally, like even last year, I haven't run the numbers, so I've got nothing really to back this up apart from vibes. But I do feel like Cleary, when Tungo was with Cleary, that's really when his scoring was much better. Really cheap price now, Tungo at $399k. Penrith, I think, have just got the best run for the rest of the year. So Tungo, I find, is a nice little pod shout. And it's low risk in the sense that he's very cheap. He's sub 400k. It's not like you're spending 600-700k for him. Should I trade Drinkwater? This week is tough to get at home against the Bulldogs, but it is a home game at least. I do think if I had Drinkwater, maybe if you're because the thing is, Turbo's got to buy in the next 3, as does Ponga. At least Drinky plays the next 3, and 2 of the 3 are at home. And then that round 22 game is against the Tigers. Personally, with Drinkwater, I would be tempted to maybe, especially if you've got the trades and you've got that flexibility, you could keep Drinky for the next 3 to get that Tigers matchup in 22. And then round 23, when Ponga's run really turns good, you could flip him to KP, or you could flip him to Reece Walsh or someone else. But you get a few more weeks of information to kind of make that decision. So I don't think Drinky is a must sell. But yeah, he's not in my top 3 fullbacks for the run home. And guys, if you're enjoying this stream, give it a like. Would appreciate that. Which 2 would you pick up from these 3 man? Turbo, Angus, Cleary. Goodness me. Again, team dependent. If your second row is looking already pretty good, you can maybe skip Angus. You might already have Olaquatu, Nicaragua, Fafita, and who's the other one I keep forgetting all the time? There's another good one, Eli Katoa, who's a really good one. Whereas halfback, you don't really have. I'd probably say Cleary is in one of those 2, just because halfback's pretty weak. And then out of Turbo, Angus, I probably lean Angus. Again, I know Turbo's got a big ceiling, but so does Angus. And then I feel like you can still go to an alternative fullback and make do. Second row, you probably don't have as big of a pool of options. Is RTS worth a buy when he plays on the wing? Yes, that's one thing out of team list. So Tane Tuapiki has been named at fullback. Warriors draw actually isn't that bad. They've got Canberra, West Tigers, and Parramatta. That's probably, if you look at the draw schedule here, the West Tigers have been 4th worst defending opposition fullbacks. Parramatta the worst. Canberra the 9th. So it's not really that bad. If he does get the next 3 weeks, Tuapiki could be a nice little pod play for anyone who's got the trades to do so. In terms of Tuivasa-Sheck, being on the wing, I think is better than him being at centre. His base is likely to go up. He's probably more likely to take more runs. Like, he played fullback for a spell the last time they played in round 18, and he based 54 points. I think at 459k with a good few matchups, I think RTS is also a nice little pod shout for people who've got the trades and flexibility, and maybe looking at downgrading someone like a Blaze Talungi. I actually don't hate RTS as a bit of a shout, because the next 3, even 4 weeks to be honest, are actually pretty good for the Warriors. Is Tamari Martin or Galvin the better hold for the season? It really comes down to Luke Metcalf. So there's been some reports of him being available in round 22. If he is, then that might cause Tamari Martin to drop out of the side. At least with Galvin, you know that he's in the team for the whole time. So I think if assuming both of them were in the team for the rest of the season, Tamari Martin would be my bet. But I feel like because Metcalf might come in and take that spot, then potentially it could be, Galvin I think would be the one I'd be leaning. Thoughts on Kai Pearce-Paul and nothing Henry to Gus? So I'm assuming, Jason, you're doing enough in for Henry to trade in Kai Pearce-Paul out. Sorry, to trade out Kai Pearce-Paul for Gus. If that's what you're doing, yeah, I'm okay with that. Because Liam Henry, sure, he's been named on. If the Panthers don't back up their Origin players, then he will get some better minutes this week. But I feel like Angus, if he plays, you just know you're going to want him for the rest of the year. Does have a high break even, so you might be able to get away with not getting him this week, and he goes down in price a little bit. 121 break even, 787. Could go down to 750. Either way, you will need to generate a lot of cash to upgrade. So maybe, in principle, I like the trade. If it helps you, if you're tight with money, what you could consider is, so Liam Henry, looking at him real quick, he's got a 65 break even, so he'll only go down a little bit in price. If Angus goes down a bit more than that, Kai Pearce-Paul next week has the bye. You could just make that trade easily next week, and Angus that week has got a better matchup against Manly at home. So one to consider if you want to do it next week, but in principle, I think those trades are completely fine. Thoughts on Blaze or Kola to Turbo or to Ponga? So based on what I said before, I think I'm ranking Ponga number 1 in my run home fullbacks, Turbo 2, which could be completely wrong, and Walsh 3. And this is all assuming that Teddy's locked into your fullback, and surely these numbers would add to that too, that based on fullback matchups, he's got the second best draw for the rest of the season, best averaging fullback as well. I think he's just an absolute must in my opinion. In terms of Blaze out, I think is completely fine. Parramatta do have a pretty tough run home, and I think KP is the one I'd be leaning. Man, the hair is glorious. It held me back, lol, thinking it was this model. You guys are way too kind. If you want to see it more in better quality, go check out the official NRL SuperCoach Team List podcast I did earlier, which is pretty cool. Watson for Appy, I have Lussick as backup. This is when you're in a tough spot when you don't have any backup at hooker. I do like Connor Watson. The only thing, Mildura, you just need to remember is that round 23, when the Roosters have a bye, you're probably going to be in the same position where you won't have a backup hooker. So I like Connor Watson over Appy Coruscant, but maybe what you could consider as well is just maybe getting rid of Lussick, who's just not going to be in this Parramatta team. You could just get a cheap backup. Thomas Starling's probably the one with a negative break even, and has played extra minutes the last 2 weeks. Raiders also don't have a bye for the rest of the season, so you could consider, instead of going Appy to Watson, which might net you maybe, let's say Coruscant averages 65, Watson maybe 70, that's 5 points, but you do have a backup for that game in round 23. So I'd maybe consider instead just upgrading Lussick and just getting rid of him and giving yourself some depth with Starling to cover Coruscant, because when Coruscant comes back, he will be goal kicking still, and the Tigers actually don't have that bad of a run home. Hey, Mark, hope all is well. Thoughts on running Dillbags and Burton at 5'8"? Okay, this is a good question because we haven't talked about 5'8s yet. So I've got a similar thing. I've got the 5'8 slide the halfback and 5'8 slide is updated. I did manage to get that one done. But let's probably just jump to the draw again. So I put this out on Instagram today. So Burton, in terms of purely matchups, if you include the buys, so he doesn't have a buy for the rest of the season, he's got the best draw on paper, stats-wise, for a halfback or 5'8 for the run home. Someone did make a good point, though, with the Bulldogs. They have a lot of travelling that they need to do, so they've got a good run in the run home because they don't play... the teams that I wouldn't want my players versing are Penrith, Roosters, Melbourne, and the Bulldogs. But he is the Bulldog, so that's okay. But yeah, it doesn't verse Penrith, Roosters, or Melbourne for the rest of the year. So, but just a lot of away games. So Cowboys is away, Broncos is away, Dragons is in Wollongong, Warriors is going to be away. So there's a few away trips. That's maybe something to think about. But even just considering that, I think at his price at 540k, goal kicking, good run home, I like Burton as an option. I'm thinking maybe this week of even potentially trading Burton in myself. If I've got I think I've got the money to go Fletcher Sharp to Burton via duels. I can switch Jaden Campbell down to fullback, get in Burton at 5'8", and that way I get rid of a problem in Fletcher Sharp. Only downside though is that probably don't have any money to go get Cleary next week. But I'll talk about my team in a little bit, probably in a bit more detail on Thursday. But yeah, ideally I do like Burton. Dillbags does have a tough run home, but I'm thinking with him, look, round 21 to 25 does suck in terms of matchups, but he's solid. Moses will be back, which I think will help the Eels. The only other thought I had with Dillbags and potentially wanting to hold him, round 26 against the Dragons, and then round 27 versus the West Tigers. I don't really see Parramatta resting players, to be honest. And, I mean, they won't have much to play for the end of the season anyway, but what would they be resting their players for? So I think that round 27, assuming Dillbags plays, he could be like a really nice pod option who people may have sold at that point in time, and he'll be coming up against the West Tigers, so that could just be a nice week to keep him. And I think the benefit of having Burton and Dillbags as a combo, you don't need to play Dillbags every week, because you're probably going to get to a point where you play your reserves in your fullback, second row, maybe halfback, and centers. So you can just keep Dillbags' depth. You don't even have to play him week in, week out. So yeah, long story short, I think that combination is fine, and I'm assuming you would just be playing Burton most weeks. What was it? 6:31. You know what? I'm going to give myself 5 minutes just because the people are here. But please do give the stream a like if you've enjoyed it. This will be the probably shortest stream I've ever done. Aman making it mainstream. Yeah, I know. I wasn't able to see the comments until the very end of that. So yeah, it was quite funny to read some of those comments. Last reserve, TPJ, Kaipi's Paul, or DWZ. Ooh. I think sit start questions. You know what? Shifter Pod, appreciate the question. Early thoughts, probably not TPJ just because of the Penrith matchup. Kaipi's Paul, Broncos, DWZ. Who does DWZ have? He's got Canberra away. I don't know actually. You know, I'm gonna pass on that shifter pod. Apologies, but I think let's keep sit start questions to maybe Thursday. I probably can't do a stream on Thursday either, by the way, guys. But I probably can do a Q&A stream on Friday before the first game. So yeah. We'll reserve sit start questions for then. And we'll try to do a bit more like captaincy chat and stuff. Thoughts on Talangi to Karaz this week? Yeah, look, Karaz, we spoke about the Bulldogs draw just then. I think Karaz is a great run home centre. I own him at the moment, which I'm happy about. Does have a high break even at 120. So trade Appy out. Trading Karaz rather than trading Appy out. I think that's how I would do it. Sam Walker to Cleary, a good trade either this week or next. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good move. While Sam Walker does have a high break even at like 119, Cleary's is higher. So I think you can even wait till next week and just do that trade. And you'll probably still, Cleary, I would suspect, lose more money than Sam Walker would lose money. All right, guys, sorry, just because of time, I thought I'd quickly maybe show you my team and some of my early trade thoughts because you guys might be interested in that. Let me quickly zoom in. So, yeah, Grant being named is obviously huge. And then Terrell May and Curran completely fine at front row. Got Angus Fafita, Olakwatu, and Eli Katoa in back row, so that's fine. Cody Walker is fine this week against the Tigers. Jaden Campbell, I've got Galvin playing at the moment as well, just because of the Rabbitohs matchup. Dom Young, Garrick, currently captain, Teddy's vice at the moment, but I should have a free loop this week anyway. Asako, Marzu, and Karaz and Holmes. So I am reliant on Val Holmes playing, but if he dropped out, I have got like Samuel Lefanu. So I think depth-wise, I should be okay this week in terms of numbers. So I haven't really given my team too much thought at all. So I probably won't get Cleary straight away, but my initial early thought was maybe getting rid of Fletcher Sharp. I have got some money in the bank, so I could go... Oh, actually, I'm short of doing Fletcher Sharp to Matt Burton straight away. So say like Campbell to Burton. I was thinking about maybe... It seems crazy to be trading out active players, but someone like an Osako who's got Penrith this week and I think just got a really tough run. Even I think I was looking at him as someone I'd be using to free up money to get like a gun fullback or something. So, someone like an Osako out for like a Isaac Tungo is something I've thought about just to get some more of that Penrith team into mind, because I don't have any Penrith players at the moment. That would free up like 192k, which would give me enough next week to go someone like... It probably would be enough to get me like Galvin to Cleary. I switch Dillbags down to my switch Dillbags down to 5'8", or switch Cody, and then I've got Burton. I've got one of Cody or Dillbags at 5'8". I've got and then I've got Cleary and one of those other guys at halfback, and then I'll just move Campbell down to fullback for the time being. What that allows me to do, I think, with Campbell is just kind of sit and wait and decide who's the best fullback to go for. Campbell is going up in price. He could be a keeper, so I might just keep him, or he could just be one that I make way for, say, KP in round 23, or I can switch one of my 5'8" and bring Campbell back up to 5'8", bring in a fullback that way. But this probably gives me enough money to get Cleary in next week, and it lets me just kind of pause my decision on the fullback trade in until, say, round 23, because at the moment I'm thinking Ponga is probably the one that I think I'll be wanting. So that's a couple of early trade thoughts. Getting in Burton in for Fletcher Sharp, but I need to free up some money to do that. That might be going Osako out. I think I'll probably keep Kale Iro, but yeah, maybe something like that. That's just an early thought. How many guns should we have at 2RF? Currently owned Fafita, Katoa, Ola, Kolomatangi, Nikora, Cap, Pierce, Paul. Yeah, obviously that's pretty stacked. If I were you, I would probably be... Yeah, you don't need all 6 of them. I'd probably want Angus, even despite how good your second row is. Kai Pierce-Paul to Angus would be nice, but that's a lot of money in your second row. So what you could do is just nuff Kai Pierce-Paul, and then you can just upgrade one of maybe Kolomatangi or Nikora to Angus eventually. But at the moment, I've got 5, and I'm probably happy to stick with those 5. Aman, love your work with Sangster. Thank you. Is Galvin to Burton a decent trade to play Burton most games for the run home? Yeah, I think that's completely fine. Surprisingly enough, Galvin actually does have one of the better draws for a 5'8" for the run home, but he does give me a bit of a vibe of someone who will maybe eventually start tailing off, because he's a young player in the run home. So yeah, I think Burton to me is an upgrade on Galvin, just because run home is probably better. Burton's goal kicking, which we always like as well for Supercoach. I'm just going to quickly bring up his... Yeah, season average is 65, but he had that period early in the season when he was just going on like an absolute tear, going like 85. He scored 147 against the Roosters, 71, 63 the last couple of weeks. I just feel like you can more confidently play him each week than you could, like, say, with Galvin. Do I like Murray on an edge? He's at a good price. I just feel like... he scored 60 points last week, 58 in base, not much more apart from that. Price is really good at 524k, but his high score this season so far is 83, which was against Melbourne with a try. Murray is a gun of the past, but I do feel like even though he's a lot more expensive, I'd still rather be getting someone like an Angus in over Murray. I think he probably does better maybe in the middle, just because I feel like he's able to do a bit more ball playing, maybe get some of those line break assists, try assists. Playing on an edge, to be honest, is more likely to get his own attacking stats, but yeah, not completely sold. Thoughts on Jacob Gaga with a negative break even? Yeah, he's probably a good little cash cow just to make you some money in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, it's like a negative break even. He's like 493k. Game against the West Tigers, so if he scores well, he will make a lot of money, and he'll probably be getting you at least 100k with West Tigers and Canberra in the next couple of weeks, and then you can look to move him on. Or you just keep him in your team and play him on matchups. So I think Gaga is fine. If you've got the trades to be able to flip him and then sell him again to make money, then great. Otherwise, you could even play him on matchups. So yeah, look, I don't hate the Gaga trade, especially because that right side does seem to be getting a lot more quality balls since Cody's moved over there. Alright guys, I think we're probably going to have to wrap it up there. We've been going on for just over half an hour, so hopefully I was able to address at least some of the key questions about Cleary, fullbacks and 5'8" and whatnot. We'll talk a bit more about captaincy and stuff later in the week, but just thought I'd be wanting to at least get something out there tonight, just because I know it's a pretty important week this week in round 20. So we'll leave it there. Thanks everyone for tuning in. But I'll be posting stuff on socials in the next couple of days. So do follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm posting a lot more on Instagram these days as well. So definitely follow me there. You can find it. It's just Amand Talks NRL SuperCoach. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Hit the like button on the way out if you did enjoy this quickfire Q&A. Let me know if you prefer this to the long streams as well, because I can do more of these if that is what people prefer. And otherwise, we'll see you all in the next one. Thanks everyone, and go the Blues for tomorrow night. See ya.